Hey everybody, it's July 24th. It is time for Rosieside Farms Zone 7B Market Garden Update. All right, so talking to you guys last time, all these ground cherries I was going to tear up, and I did tear up a few right here with the thought process of putting cucumbers in here, letting them grow in the ground. There's the aftermath of the ground cherries. Then I kind of determined that, it's just way too close. There's really nothing I can plant here at all that's going to thrive next to these tomatoes, which are going to be growing up this trellis. And we harvested quite a few tomatoes off of this, and this was our third planting of tomatoes. So I'm going to leave these ground cherries here unless they start to get on my nerves a little bit. But the tomatoes are doing okay, and we've just gotten to the time of year where it's almost impossible for me to keep up with the garden. As far as the overgrowth, I just weed whacked all the way around. Weed whacked those ground cherries down. There's ground cherries everywhere. I have no need for them. To keep things looking good. So they don't look good, but it's producing well. So that's really all that matters to me. Here was one of our successions of tomatoes, the most recent one. And we got some here, so they're growing. Some are doing better than others, but we're just going to kind of let them go. These are the September tomatoes, so hoping to harvest them in September. So just the back side of that tomato trellis with big old tomatoes everywhere. The peppers, and look at these beetles on these eggplants, and they attack some eggplants and not others. I'm glad they left the big ones alone that we're actually harvesting off of. But I think we got a cubanella. And look at this eggplant, this white eggplant. Just absolutely destroyed by these beetles. But I have eggplants that are a couple feet away that aren't. Our white tomatoes, I think our white tomatoes are just at about the end, even though we got some small fruits on there. The white tomatoes are not a big seller at the farmer's market. People look at them, they think they're not ripe. So I think it's going to be our last year for white tomatoes, but we get some really, really big white tomatoes. Our volunteer tomato plant is, there has to be 30 or 40 tomatoes on this thing, and my efforts to stake them up didn't work. Our tomatillos, we harvested tomatillos, took them to our last market, sold decently, sold a few quarts of them. Now here's an eggplant, all the way down this road, just massive eggplants. There's beetles on some of them, but not like the ones that are just completely ravished. Our beefsteaks, which I believe are yellow beefsteaks. We were under the impression they were red, but they're all coming out yellow and putting off a ton of fruit. Our trellis, which has to be supported by bamboo now because it fell over in a storm. This section, the original squash and zucchini section, is basically just tomatillos, and I'm just letting these squash run their course, getting one every once in a while off of it. Okay, actually, as I speak, pretty good squash down there, and 3 or 4 more as well. These white eggplants, so look at the difference. These white eggplants, when the beetles aren't on them, we've got eggplants growing everywhere. And I think this week, some of them are starting to turn, but this week will be the week we can take white eggplant to the market. All of our eggplants here, and then more traditional black eggplant, which I don't think any are on there right now because we harvested them, took them to the market last week, and I'll do a harvest video this week as well. We got one little baby growing there. Jalapenos, as always, big producer for us, chocked full of peppers and tomatoes that will probably be picked today. But it is a Monday. Our market's not till Saturday, so I'm gonna leave them on there. Maybe pick them tomorrow. Cool them down a little bit for the market. Our pineapple tomatoes have been absolutely massive. So we're selling them like individually at the market for $3 a piece. Here's some down here. They're getting absolutely huge. Let's see if I can get you down here. They're a very meaty tomato, perfect for sandwiches. We've eaten quite a few. The black crims, got a section here, a little cluster that will be ready for this week's market. And just the grass and the weeds, it's just too much. Anywhere there's a little slit in this weed fabric, they grow up. The trellising stakes, it's the end for those. Next year, it's all going to be fencing trellis like we have on these beef steaks. And I'm not going to skimp on the post like I did this time, trying to save my post. I'm just going to put up very strong trellis system. Here's our fat red tomatoes. These will all be ready in a day or two to pick. There's some that are ready right now to pick. Which brings us to our spoon tomatoes that I ripped out. And here's the aftermath of that. We sold some of these spoon tomatoes, yellow currant tomatoes, as plant starts. And I don't discourage anybody from growing them. But if you're in a market garden situation where you're harvesting in order to sell, it would take forever to harvest those tomatoes, the way the plant grows and how small they are. So I'm done with them. I might stick 2 tomatoes in those 2 holes there. I mean, we're really pushing, being able to plant and get a harvest, but it's not going to hurt anything. They're getting watered anyway. And our tumbler tomatoes, which you fill up a quart basket with, those are a guaranteed sell at the market. Peppers have been out of control too. Each one of these pepper plants is just mobbed with peppers. And we picked a couple of bushel of peppers already. These are our Lady Bells down here. I mean, this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, there's 15 peppers on that little plant. So I'll probably come and pick a few of those, even though they're small, pick a few of them. Just to release the stress on the plant a little bit, because there's a lot of peppers on a very small plant. I mean, look at this last Lady Bell here. 1, 2, 3. I mean, there's 12 to 15 just on that little plant too. Weed whack a little bit, get this growth under control as much as I can. This first plant of cucumbers is just about at the end. It did its job, harvested a bunch of cucumbers off of them, but I think it's just about it. Our weed and squash patch, these patty pans, we picked a few patty pans. They do seem to be more resilient to the beetles and disease. We got a guy over there thinks I'm going to throw him a tomato here in a minute. Who knows, it might happen. Cantaloupe, Hubbard squash, crookneck squash, zucchini, and weeds. So I come over here. If I get something out of here, I do. If I don't, I don't. Not too worried about it. Our volunteer heirlooms and weeds. I actually picked some heirlooms out of this grass, and they sold at the market. Looks like the pigs might get a little snack here. I'll show you what these look like. This is actually a real good looking one because there's not a bunch of cat facing on this one. But we grew them last year, didn't grow them this year, and they just reseeded. So we've got 1,000 tomatoes inside. So we'll turn that tomato into pork. Our most recent succession of cucumbers. Actually, I planted some real little ones yesterday. But they're doing well. We picked a few cucumbers off of them. There's cucumbers growing. In this section, I just did not keep up with the weeds like I should. But it's a combination of volunteer tomatoes, green beans, which I planted a while ago. I thought I had green beans by now. Oh, you know what? I have green beans. I don't like fresh green beans. Maybe the pigs do. But I don't know, maybe I'll have a couple baskets of green beans next time. Who knows? To our cucumbers back here in this garden, of beans and marigolds. And my wife does flower farming, so she's gonna have to come and decide if she wants these marigolds for bouquets or I'm ripping them out. Just way too crowded in here, and I need those cucumbers. Volunteer Roma tomatoes should be turning red soon. Our sea of tomatillos, which, I mean, there's a ton in there ready to pick. You can only pick so many tomatillos. I have to space them out a little bit more next year. And our eggplant, more white eggplant. Little one growing there. There's some much bigger ones. And okra, which I pick every day. We picked a bunch, made some pickle okra today. But they are growing into an okra jungle. That's our update for today, July 24th in Zone 7B of the Eastern Shore of Maryland. When I start harvesting for our market, I'm going to do a harvest video. So usually when I give these videos, I had already harvested, so you really don't see exactly what is producing. You see what's growing. So look forward to that in a couple of days. I'll see you next time.